Mars, keep your remarks, cause the artist ain't done with me yet. Cause I'm going through the muck and the mire, all of the hell and the fire. So when I come out on the other side, I will be such a desire, like a Picasso or a Van Gogh or a porcelain.
Hey, what's up everybody? It's Stefan Pacheco, also known as Steph the Pharaoh. I'm here today with none other than Monica Robles, who is a realtor in the Central Valley. She covers, anywhere from Porterville, Visalia. I've seen her as far as Fresno, even as of lately. And I'm really excited for this episode because Monica has a really interesting story and that I really knew nothing about. We just kind of talked a little before this, so I'm excited to have her share her story, what she's up to. We'll talk a little bit and we'll touch on the real estate market and everything in between. So Monica, thank you for taking the time to be on my show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely honored to be here and be taken into consideration for this.
Yeah, no problem. I really just had to return the favor, like I was telling you. You saw something in me over the summer and you were like, hey, I'm putting together a short series on Instagram. I want to bring people from the community together and be more than a realtor, transcend the space and really be known as somebody that can just kind of be the connector of dots in a way for people that are in the area looking to do things from, I've seen places such as the gyms around here, the local coffee shops that are coming up. And it's really awesome what you've put together over just the last 6-7 months from when you told me about your idea to seeing it transpire. So it's really awesome. And I'm sure a lot of people have seen what you're doing too. So it's really exciting just to see you to be able to flourish into, who you are today. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a scary idea that I just decided to go for it and put together.
Yeah.
And it was more because I'm sure, I want to say I myself was affected by last year. There was a lot going on and a lot of people did too. And I just figured, what's one way that I can bring the community together? How can I help? How can I contribute myself, although I don't have much? And something that I've always been interested in doing is videos, is just funny thing, I've always wanted to kind of be a reporter.
Really?
That's like a dream job I've always wanted. Or growing up, I used to always say, I'm gonna end up in Univision or Telemundo. So you better catch my autograph while you can.
Wow, okay.
Life went a little bit different, but so I started with that idea and I just started seeking out people that were willing to share their business, what and how, what they were doing in the community and how they were contributing to the business in the community and whatnot. So I reached out. You were the first one, you were very active on social media. So, I figure, if somebody like him can, do it and is willing to do it, then maybe I can convince others.
Yeah.
So, thankfully you did. And, I kind of cringe when I watch those first videos, but
hey, that's how it starts, for anything.
That was the beginning.
Yeah. The first couple you're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, what was I thinking? But you got started at the end of the day. You don't need to be great to start, but you need to start to be great. And I think that's something that somebody can implement in every facet of their life, whether it be a new career, a new job, a family, going to the gym.
Really.
Yeah,
anything. And that's one of the reasons why, I had a camera, I had a gimbal, and I said, we're going to do what we can with awesome. What we have. The hardest part was just, trying to get those invites accepted. But thankfully, everybody I reached out to was super helpful and was amazing, and collaborated with me in making these videos and then putting this information out. So far, I mean, the videos are doing a little bit better. We've gotten better with the editing.
You got great content,
The directing is still there. So it was just a jump, really. It was just, okay, I'm going for it. I have no idea how I'm going to do this, but in deciding that, I learned a lot. I learned systems that I would have never even taken the time to try to learn.
Yeah.
Like Da Vinci, because I mean, when in my life did I think I wanted to make videos and edit them? And
so you edited them yourself as well?
Yeah, I
Wow,
learned.
that's awesome.
I have someone who helps me as well. But yeah, I'm kind of curious sometimes, and I'm kind of impatient. So I like to know how to do everything, because I hate relying on people. I mean, I love to collaborate with people, but if there's anything that I can do, I will get it done and not wait for anybody else. So, I mean, it was great, and it was just a chance that I took because I started believing in myself.
I mean, that's
truly.
where it starts.
Yeah, that's just truly where it starts. I was like, look, no more caring about opinions of the people. They will judge people, always do. And so I just kind of thought to myself, why am I playing around with my own potential? Why am I holding back for people that aren't here when my kids are sick, aren't here paying my bills, aren't here when I'm tired, So I said, let's just do it. Let's just do it. And if we look like a fool, hopefully it's just the first few videos.
Seriously. I thought you were a natural though, like on the camera, in the beginning too. Like you could just tell, when people, I mean, are natural talkers in a way. You and I connected really well. And
right.
But going back to just like your story, you kind of shared with me a little before we started just how you got your start, and I would have never known. And that's something that I actually want to just shed some light on, because I think a lot of people, whether they're watching now or they watch in the future, a lot of people get stuck in comparing themselves to others.
Yes.
Especially in today's age, we see other people making moves, and so some people out of jealousy, they'll choose to like not look at what you're doing, or just,
right.
There's so many psychological things that can be going on in our mind. But I think just to, like I said, shed some light on your story and like what you went through, because it's not like you just one day, hey, like let's do, like it took time for you to get to where you're at today, like,
right.
And that's what people don't see. You're not just like this overnight success for anything, anybody. I don't care what you do.
That does not exist. Overnight success does not exist. I'll tell you, it's taking a lot of sweat, tears, sacrifices, investments, and you name it. There's a lot when it comes to becoming, especially an entrepreneur, that you put into priority to be able to make it. Especially if you're serious about what you're doing.
Exactly.
If you believe in what you're doing, you get passionate about what you're doing. And I think that for me, one of the things that has always helped me is that I've always had the mentality of I only want to have the life I create. I don't like and want the life everybody else wants for me, or has in mind for me, or wants me to have. I will only be content and happy with what I decide and what I make. And I say this because, I grew up in a home where there was a lot of violence, and so by the way, I am from Mexico. I grew up. I was born and raised in Mexico. I came here in 2008, and my years in Mexico. I grew up in a household where women are kind of like, this is your place, and you do this amount of things. type of thing. And everything else, you don't really have a voice, you don't really get to say much besides sticking to your role. And I'll tell you, Aaron brought me a lot of trouble. Still brings me a lot of trouble, because, you know, I always spoke up for what I saw and believed in. So, you know, I am 11-year-old telling my own mother, you can leave that man and you can do better, and you can support us better, and you by yourself can give us a better life. And, you know, I would always stand up for that. And, you know, it got me a lot of trouble with disciplining and whatnot, but they didn't understand. I just wasn't happy with the life, and I wasn't settling for it.
How old were you?
I mean, I must have been 11, 12, but it was like that my entire life. So until I left my house at 18, which is when I emancipated myself, I decided, okay, enough is enough. I do not want this life. I want a better life, not just for me, but for my sisters. And I took the risk. I said, I am gonna go. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where my next meal is going to come from.
Wow.
But I know that I can make a better living than what I have right now. And so I left.
Were you scared?
Absolutely. I had no idea where I was going. I don't have family here.
None?
I have one uncle that came from Utah and one aunt, but they're kind of been off and on because he's been living with kidney disease for the past 8 years.
Sorry to hear that.
So I'm kind of just, you know, helping them get through that, and so my sisters were here as well. So I just felt like I kept fighting, like, okay, that's not the life I want, but I'm not gonna go anywhere else because I still have my sisters and I know I can do better. So
so you brought them with you here?
No, our parents brought us here in 2008. It was my mother that brought me and my sisters.
Okay. And
then we just stayed here. They decided to make a living here, and so we stayed here.
In Porterville?
In Porterville.
Oh.
We first moved to Utah, and so I went to school there for like 4 months, and then they moved us back here, and then we kind of just settled here.
Okay.
So I got a job. I was still going to school. I got a job for anything, which is what got me into real estate. I'm sure you were gonna get there.
Yeah.
But I got a job at a local real estate office, but not as your realtor. I actually was cleaning the offices. That's how I started. I was cleaning the offices at this local real estate office named Melson Realty, which is just down on Prospect.
Wow.
And I got acquainted with the broker, with the people around, and so just made connections. I felt like people always saw how hungry I was to learn the language, to just, you know, I was very observative around my surroundings, and just always, probably people thought I was looking at them funny because I would pay like closely attention to them. But truly, I was just trying to read the lips and then trying to figure out, okay, how do you say certain words? Hold up.
Well, that's right, because you didn't mention English isn't your first language.
Right, yeah. I spoke nothing but Spanish for 17 years. So, coming here from Mexico and going into school, I hated it. I used to just really consider running away and running back to Mexico.
Well, when you were in school, did you start out like a junior or
It was
sophomore?
my sophomore year.
Okay.
I remember being placed in this ELD class.
What high school?
In high school,
Which one?
Granite Hills.
Oh, okay.
I went to Granite Hills. And that class, I remember, it was like the starter of everything for me, because I had such a great teacher there, who was constantly pushing me and pushing my limits into what I could do.
That's awesome.
And so I even came to a point where I felt like I didn't belong, just because I set my mind to, I want to learn English because I want to be on the same level as these academic kids. I don't want to be in an ELD class learning just basic words. I want to be in the, academic class with people my age and people, with ideas and not on this academic level. So
you felt like it was holding you back in a way?
Yeah, I mean, coming from Mexico, I was a very distinguished student. I had just scored a scholarship prior to coming here, but because we were poor in Mexico, conditions over there were very harsh for my family, and then on top of that, our house burned down and we lost it all. And that's when they decided to just move over here. So coming here, no English, I just remember thinking, okay, I don't know what I have to do or how often I have to do it, but whatever it takes. So I started reading a lot, started diving into books. My teacher would give me recommend some books, and I was done with them by the next day. I have no recollection of what the book said, but I sat in my room and I read every page out loud.
Eager to learn, excuse me.
I was just reading out loud and probably mispronouncing every other word, but I was just set on learning. And so I decided to throw myself in sports. So I joined soccer. I went and joined the Police Explorers after school. I did, Granite Hills has this program, journalism, this class for journalism, where I joined first and I wrote my first articles. The first one was in Spanish, but then the second one I did it in English and it was published, and that was like the proudest moment I ever had.
I mean, because you had been working to get there, right?
Yes, and so, I was just trying to do anything and everything that could help me get to my goal, which was learning the language, at least just getting by enough to understand and do more than I feel like I was doing, because I feel like I was being held back just because of the language barrier.
Man.
So, it was hard because, like I said, at some point I felt like I didn't belong, and that was because I decided in my ELD class I refused to speak Spanish, so the kids would constantly pick on me and say, oh, why you think now you're a gringa, and like just this and that. And
that's interesting to think about, because I mean, people in your culture, like, I mean, in the culture in general, like, I guess you're trying to do something different, so they kind of like poke at you because not everybody's on that same level, right?
And it's like that when you're a leader. If you're if you're not a sheep, if you're not a person that easily follows the pack, that's what you're going to face your entire life. So make peace with it and still do what you want to do, or what you feel will bring you that fulfillment and happiness and achievement within yourself, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. What matters.
Well said.
And if there's anything I've learned in life is, when someone is happy with themselves, they make it better for everyone else around them.
I mean, you're naturally, creating your culture, you're creating your tribe, so to speak.
Right.
You're finding your tribe.
Right. And in school, it was like that with the Spanish, and then on the English, I was like, well, I'm not good enough because I can pronounce, certain words correctly.
So you fell in between. You fell really literally in between everybody. You're like, I don't want to, wow.
Yes, it was always like the standoffish kind of person that just didn't belong. I mean, I have a lot of acquaintances. You can see my social networks. There's quite a bit of people in there. But I can tell you that I wasn't close with anybody. It was just one day I was hanging around the popular kids, the other day was just,
Yeah,
by
yeah.
myself. It was just going around like that, and it's because I felt like I didn't belong in a place, especially when school can be kind of cruel sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, looking back, even for me, I can kind of like relate, like not to take away from the people that I'm sure you've met that helped you
Right.
and stuff. Same here, but it's just something internal where it just doesn't feel right. It's just like, you're trying to find your place almost, and
Right.
trying to create, who you are and what you
Right.
want to be. And usually nobody would really understand that,
Right,
So
right.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, so so I was speaking the language, very little, and one thing that I was certain of was that I could learn it. That's one thing I always believed. There were times that I was looking at myself in the mirror and I would just pretend I was speaking English, even though I had no idea what the heck I was saying. But I was just like looking at myself and just saying things
No way.
out loud. Yeah.
Was it awkward in the beginning?
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's always been awkward. I still have conversations with myself in the mirror. There's this times where I just wake up and I'm like, look, you are going to do this. Listen to me. You are going to do
That's
this.
powerful.
And I mean, I feel like people underestimate that because they're like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, number one, I've done that in the past. Like, I don't want to get caught up in that, but I agree with you. It's like you're just looking at yourself because we see like a physical body, right? But like we're beyond that, you know, like we're more than that as a person, and we just got to show it and show up every day. And man,
there's a saying that say, like your biggest supporter is always going to be you, and I feel like having conversations with myself in the mirror have been about that. And I'm sorry, it wasn't that you're going to be the biggest supporter, is be the person you needed growing up, and so I am to myself the person that I haven't had in my entire life because my parents weren't around, and I've lived most of my life away from family, and I've moved a lot, and so in every place that I've started new with new people, and so you don't count on support like that when you kind of travel alone and you're alone. So to me, giving myself that support has been a huge factor in the things that I can achieve, because in a way, if I don't do that, it's like I'm not committing. I don't feel like I'm committing. And by talking to myself like a parent would, like somebody who loves you well does, or how your biggest fan does, gives you that confidence. So if there's nobody else around you, have the strength to sit in front of the mirror and be that person for yourself and give yourself that support that you need, because ultimately, if you believe in yourself, honestly, you can achieve absolutely anything. I mean, look at me.
True.
I would have never thought I would be this fluent in English. I never thought that I would be where I'm at today, but yeah, I mean, it's been a long journey, but nonetheless, the biggest factor that has played a role in that, all of that, is that I believe in myself, that I have placed that faith in myself, and just continue to as I go. I mean, nothing is ever set in stone, but I feel like as we go through phases and changes, there's always a little bit of yourself that you gotta keep going back to and check in with yourself and say, okay, what are we doing? Dig deeper. What are you doing? What are you going? Is what you're doing serving a purpose? And then get yourself answers, and then maneuver through life based on what you get.
Now,
But not what you hear, just
now,
what you get.
Were you always like, I mean, I feel like you're very self-aware in this moment, you know?
No.
So when did that change for you? I mean, because like I feel like we still haven't even scratched the surface, but like, I mean, you know, being emancipated, when you came here, you weren't yet, right? Or
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I think that I finally had a breakthrough after my second divorce. So I got married young. I was married by 18.
Was this in high school or?
I was still in high school. So when I emancipated myself, I had no one to go to. I had my boyfriend at the time. And, you know, in such a difficult time, now I think back and I was like, man, you know, we were kids. And so, you know, going through high emotions like that, one thing led to another. And next thing I know is I'm pregnant. And, you know, based on my beliefs and where I come from, now there's going to be a marriage that now, you know, life's got to go this way. And so by the time I was 21, I had just turned 21, my divorce had just been final. And
how long were you married for?
I was married for 2 years. And then when that was over, it was complete chaos in my life. My parents were getting deported. I had 2 little sisters that were gonna be staying with me, and I myself find myself in deportation proceedings as well. So I couldn't continue working where I was working, and just problem after problem just coming at me left and right. I was barely surviving. I remember I couldn't work at my job anymore. I was working as a loan officer assistant at the time, and one of my friends, actually she was the mom of one of the softball girls my sister played with. She gave me a job at a local restaurant here, so I started waitressing. And that's what I was paying for a roof and food and everything. But the whole situation with deportation was very uncertain. So by the time I was 24, I found myself engaged again and married. And then after that I moved to Germany. So I started
moved to Germany?
Yes, so then I started another life in Germany.
Wow.
Lived there for about 2 years, two years and a half.
With your family and
it was just with my husband. I couldn't take my family because my sisters, I'm still working on their processes. They still don't have their stuff, and that's what I was mentioning. I'm about to get my citizenship this year as
That's
well.
awesome.
So I'm trying to help them out. But at the time I had gone to court, I couldn't take my daughter. And the fact that I was in deportation wasn't really helping me at all. So I ended up moving to Germany and fought the case through while I was over there.
what led you guys to go to Germany?
What?
Like what led you to move to Germany?
I'm sorry. My ex-husband was military, so he got
Okay.
orders to be over there. And then that was a very dark phase of my life, and that's just because I spent a lot of time alone. So I had a lot of time in my hands to think about everything.
Your life.
And if you're not ready or have the support to sit there and analyze, you know, your life decisions, where you are in life, and what has happened throughout your life, it can be hard. It can be very hard.
I agree with you.
I remember constantly just thinking, where am I going? And I'm sure everybody at some point gets there in their life. Like, what am I doing? Where am I going? because I was coming from a place where it was nothing but survival. It was just survival. It was just, okay, there's a problem, I'm gonna attack it, and when you think you're in the clear, there's another one coming.
Yeah, so you're always on the defense.
So
right?
I was always on that defense. I was always like just waiting for something, like, okay, what am I gonna get hit with now? And so that was a point of my life where I just really sat down and just really faced a lot of the things that I had put away, which weren't easy. And so I think that kind of took a toll on my marriage, and whatnot, as including, well, just, a lot of life changes happening here and there. And so after that, I came back to the States, in Germany. After Germany, went to Colorado. I was there for about a year, and then I got divorced. My divorce was final May of 2018, and I was here within, a day and a half of drive. I came back to town. I came back to town with a baby, a U-Haul with a couple of things, and needed to get started again.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I want to uncover in all that you just said, but I mean, man, that's a lot of change.
Yes,
I mean, to say the least, like a lot of change. And for those out there that, I mean, are constantly battling whatever they have going on, just, I would just say always be grateful for where you're at, because life can change in one decision. One decision can lead to another that can eventually you can have that next breakthrough. But I kind of want to touch on the self-awareness. Having the time alone, it really gave you that opportunity to kind of reflect. And that's something that I do a lot, and that's just me personally.
Yeah.
But it's kind of nice to like talk to somebody that's also done the same thing, because it'll really set you up for the future if you choose to take the lessons from where you've been, right?
Yeah, you get to know yourself. You become aware of your power. What you're about. It makes navigating life a lot easier, because you are aware of why you feel, you're aware of why you think, you're aware of your triggers, you're aware, yourself. And that's what it's supposed to be. Like, you're supposed to know yourself, to know, okay, I'm gonna place boundaries here because, I don't do well with this. And so you avoid making bad decisions because you know yourself, or you know yourself enough to know how to do with things. Like, I always tell people, I even tell my clients all the time, I'm a visual person. I like to have things in front of me, because if you're just putting words on me, this is my second language.
Yeah.
I get kind of distracted. I just need something to see, and so I know that about myself. I don't settle for people just telling me, well, this is what I can give you, this is what you can take. I'm very straightforward for the same reason, because I know what I want and I know how and what I'm doing. And sometimes I feel like we can doubt ourselves. We can doubt ourselves a lot, and just kind of go with the flow, because you don't feel worthy, because you don't have the confidence, because you're afraid what others are going to say or think, or because you yourself don't feel like you deserve it. But in truth, it's all what you believe.
Exactly.
It's all what you believe in. And a lot of what gave me confidence was knowing that I had made it through so many difficult times and I was still breathing. My mentality is being like, hey, any day above ground, it's a good day.
Did that give you liberation, like, as a person, to like look back and say, like, dang, like,
I've gone through a lot.
Yeah.
It's like I've gone through a lot. And so take pride. I feel like it is important to take pride in the battles that you have won. In every battle, whether it's with yourself, whether it's with anything that you might have changed within yourself, be proud. In my darkest days, I was very depressed. I'll tell you, I'm not very proud of it, but there was a time where I thought death would be the best solution. And that was my darkest, a rock bottom. And even then, after everything was said and done, although you don't see it in the moment, think about the moment. Think about the time that you just made it. It's like walking outside in a car just coming this close to hit you, and you're like, whew, man.
Saved, right?
I made it.
Yeah.
And it's just like that. So anytime you find yourself, I feel like it's important to tell yourself when you're in hard times, hey, remember that time I made it through, whatever?
You weathered the storm and you didn't think you were going to be able to, right?
It's going to be fine. If there's anything that I've learned in life, is somehow things always work out. Somehow. So as long as you believe in yourself, I think that that's where it all starts. And so for me, spending that time alone and learning who I was, what I felt, the things that I hadn't dealt with, was a pivotal moment of my life. It was the most pivotal moment of my life, and I feel like after that I understood why I had gone through every single obstacle I crossed or I have crossed in my path and continue to cross. Except now I have more emotional intelligence,
yeah,
and
there you go.
And I'm more like, all right, you're welcome. Let's get through you right now. Let's process you and let's get through you. So it's a journey. It's a journey,
it
and I think
is.
that as I go, I'm still meeting parts of myself that are still kind of tucked away. So there's always limitless.
Well, at least you're self-aware enough to figure out, like, hey, like, obviously none of us are perfect, but
Right.
you're still rediscovering and trying to, like, figure out, like you were saying earlier, your triggers or different things, because we as humans, I mean, it's easy to be self-aware, number one, but number two, it's also easy not to be in certain areas. Just because you're aware of, like, certain things about yourself doesn't mean you're aware of the whole scope. I mean, I'm guilty of it too.
It's uncomfortable.
It's
uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to look at the things that are an issue. It's uncomfortable to look at the things within yourself that you yourself don't approve of. Like, I mean, deep down we have a feeling that is like, oh, whoa, that may not be the best thing that you can be doing right now, or that's not okay to do. But somehow you find yourself doing the opposite, because it's a lot easier to just ignore that little voice and just go with the flow, or go with the influence.
Yeah, there you go. You said it really well.
So, I think that really knowing your stance and truly knowing your story, it's very critical. You were saying earlier about comparison, and I think that it is very easy to fall into that comparison cycle if you yourself aren't really aware of your story. So everyone's different. Everyone has experienced different things in life. Everybody has, a story to tell. Everybody has obtained or gotten to where they are by different methods. Everything is different. But why should you compare yourself to somebody else whose story isn't like yours, whose dreams aren't like yours, whose experiences haven't been the same as yours, whose knowledge isn't the same as yours, and whose vision isn't the same as yours? Why? There's no comparison. It's you and your movie and them and their movie. That's
Exactly.
just what it is.
Might be the same genre.
Yeah,
But it's a completely
completely different.
Man, I really like all of. I mean, you're full of wisdom, honestly.
Thank you.
And seriously, like I just from listening to you, I'm like, wow. Like it's amazing. And I mean, like I said, that you still have a huge. You were telling me stories before we started that, I mean, just about trying to bridge the gap between learning the English language like that. I mean, you were telling me that you took the explorer position. I think you mentioned it a little while ago, but you were saying how like the reason you had done it was just because you wanted to learn English.
Yes. I pursued a lot of things that weren't within my scope of capabilities, if you will, but I just was decided to do it. And the worst that can happen is you get funny stories from it, honestly, like just experiences. Playing soccer, I met one of the funniest coaches I've ever met in my life. She was a little crazy but super funny, and I loved her. I met wonderful girls in that team through the Explorers. I worked along really cool people. I got to unofficially meet what is his name? He's one of the most famous quarterbacks for the San Francisco Niners.
Ooh, I'm not even a huge football.
Okay, so I got to meet this super high profile celebrity, and I had no idea who he was.
No way.
Yeah, Jerry Rice. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Now, Jerry Rice. So yeah, I was at this post. They had taken us over to Pebble Beach for an event, golf tournament event that we were helping with. We were helping just direct traffic and whatnot. So we were there, and they used to wake us up like at 4 a.m, which we needed to be our shifts and get ready. And so I was tired that day. I remember just sitting at the entrance and just doing my job, telling everybody, okay, no cameras are allowed. Okay, you're good, come in. It was a very practiced words that I had already known. Yeah. And then there comes this guy, and he looks like he has a camera in his pocket, but I asked him to show me what's in his pocket. And he takes it out, and then they end up being keys. And so across from me, I hear a TCSO just yelling at me, Monica! And then I was like, oh, what I do? What happened? And he's like, did you know who that is? And I was like, no, but what did I do wrong? What am I getting yelled at? And he's like, that was Jerry Rice. And then I was like, so...
You're like, oh.
And then he was like, yeah. And then he went on to say, this is so and so and so. And I was like, sorry guys, I don't watch football. So they were like, that's funny, because when George Lopez walked by, you were like, that's George Lopez.
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
And then I was like, what do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, I know. He's not a football star.
I had cool, wonderful stories from there. I actually met my first husband there as well. And, anything that I ever threw myself and just, I kind of adopted. I just kind of adapted because I had that mentality of, it's already worse where I'm at.
Dang. So it's only uphill from here.
Yeah, so it's like, what could happen if I do this? The worst that can happen is I get some experience. I get, I make new friends, or I do something that I haven't done before. And I think that that's what I was always hungry for, especially coming from Mexico, where, we faced a lot of poverty. It was like, there's so much around. Like, the world truly is bigger than you see. And so what can I get myself into now? And what can I do?
No.
Yeah, and it was more because I believed that I had potential to do better and to be better. It was always like in the back of my mind, like I will not settle for a life like that.
Where did that come from though?
I think that it came from constantly living in a place where I didn't feel safe, where it was like I refused for everybody to say like this, that's your home and that's where you should be and that's where you should stay. And it was like,
you didn't want to stay.
Are you kidding me? Have you seen how toxic that place is? Absolutely not.
So you just felt better in a way, well, not better, but like you just felt like you deserved maybe
yes
more.
I was and you know, I had 2 little sisters for which I've always seen after, like I've always taken care of them, and they're 9 and 7 years older than me, younger than me. So they were basically my babies. You know, I was a mom before I even become a mom myself.
Wow.
So you know, I handle feeding them. I had, from the moment they were born, I took care of them. I took them to school. I was the one responding for them. I was the one in charge of them. I was the one who made sure, you know, everything was done. So they were like my kids. And although I couldn't convince my mother that she could deserve, or she deserved a better life and she could have a better life, I believe that for myself and my sisters. So anything that I would do was always like, I come with a package, okay? These are my sisters, so if I'm going up here, they're coming with me. And that's kind of
awesome.
what has always kept me going, is always knowing that there are others that can benefit from what I do, because ultimately I want them to realize themselves that they can do more, that they can be more. And then there's always a way to get past life experiences, especially the bad ones, and not let them define you or define the life that you're going to have in a future.
That is like a really good point that you hit, because I think a lot of people carry on, and I know I did, that, you know, we carry those failures or those experiences, and we do, like, we just let it weigh us down, and like, that's who I am. But like, in all reality, the person that I see, like, I don't see that, you know, like we don't see that, but we can emotionally carry on to that and let it define us.
And you know, failure teaches you a lot. I failed many times, and you know, I will continue to fail. I know that for a fact. I've already made peace with it. We're not perfect. So when you fail in anything, you know, I've even failed tests. You know, you want to hear something funny? I failed my real estate test like 8 times when I first took it back in 2011. So anytime I have failed any test, my marriages, anything really in life, I've learned from it, from the failure. I've always taken something from everything that I've ever failed in, and I've always just grabbed it and done it better. So I think that when it comes to failures, it's like pain. You can't avoid them. You can't avoid them because you're not, you know, heartless, and you're not perfect. So the sooner you make peace with the fact that you're going to fail, but you know, keep in mind that you're going through life gathering tools that are going to allow you to have the capability to make choices that will hopefully, you know, prevent you from failing, but at the same time understanding that life is life. And at some point, there's, you know, as much as you can have good, there's always going to be something that pops up and it's just gonna test you. It's life's way to say, hey, are you on your toes? Are you still learning? Are you good? Are you
Right? I mean, that's so true though.
At least that's how I feel it is. So to me, when I started working a job cleaning the office, I remember thinking, you know, I feel so bad for myself because I'm at the very bottom. Like this, I consider the very bottom. And I know that I can do better. But if I want to do better, what do I have to do? You know, how do I go about things? And unfortunately, you know, I didn't grab myself and sat myself there to ask these questions and get deep about my life direction. That I kind of made decisions, you know, emotional decisions based on the circumstances of my life and what was going on and what I was feeling. And so, you know, things changed very quickly because of that. And the older I got, the more I understood that every time things were going a certain way, it was because I was responding the same way to the same obstacles or things that life was throwing at me. I was still responding the same way to them. And so what was happening is things were keep cycling.
You were on that repeat. You were hitting repeat.
Cycling back, and so it came really down to the time that I spent the most time alone for me to get to this point. As to where before, you know, I was busy with kids, I was busy with a lot of problems, I was busy just getting through the day. I was on this mode that wasn't really living, but also wasn't really.
You're almost in like survival state, right?
Yeah. And so when I was working at the office, I remember just kind of thinking to myself, well, I don't want to be a cleaning lady always. I want to do more. I want more. And so, you know, I was there for a little while, I believe a year or so, and then I started showing more interest. I started making more connections. I had been applying myself to English, and then finally I was offered a position as an assistant.
Oh wow!
And so
is that the loan officer assistant?
No, it was a realtor. It was
wow! So you've been kind of dabbling in
real estate.
Around, real estate.
So when I got into helping or assisting that realtor, I got to see, you know, a little bit more behind the scenes. And then one day he had me translate, because that's the reason why I think he brought me on. It was because I was fluent in Spanish. I could understand English and I could write it better than I could speak it. But he saw the potential in me, and so he gave me a shot. And I remember one day he had me translate for this person, and it was just to tell them their offer got accepted and that they were gonna be moving into their house in 30 days, and just why not. And honestly, the buyer's expression and emotion sold me. I was like, wow, I want to deliver this news for the rest of my life. Where do I sign up?
Yeah, well, I mean,
want these reactions. I want to see nothing but these reactions.
What's good about what you just told me, and I was going to say cool, but for lack of a better word, but no, like I'm kind of relating back to a post I seen, like I think it was over the summer. It was like a candid shot. You called a client on Instagram and you're like, hey.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, just seeing your enthusiasm there, I can only imagine what it was like your first time, like, you know, being exposed to that. And I think that that's really awesome. And you did tell me like 6-7 months ago, you're like, you know, I really am in it for the buyer, like for their dream, like that's what I'm passionate about. Yeah. And I thought that was, you know, I thought that was interesting because not everybody in the real estate field, I feel like, is like that. Yeah. And I don't want to put words in their mouth or like say that nobody's like that, but I could see
it's a numbers industry. There's, you know, very high competition, but like I said, you know, to me, I've always been clear with my picture. I've always been clear with my intentions, and I've always been honest to myself as to what it's important to me. Like, yes, you're, you know, for the people that are like, why are you spending time making these videos instead of, you know, producing more? And I'm like, well, because, you know, I sleep better at night. I sleep, I'm good, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. You want me to be shooting numbers like this. My broker probably does too. I probably should too, because, you know, who's gonna complain of having more money? But at the end of the day, I am happy with how I'm managing my business. So, you know, to me, it's like your opinion is, you know, important to me. But at the end of the day, I make my decisions based on what brings me, again, happiness and what brings me peace. And, you know, if that doesn't fall into the standards of society, I mean, like,
that falls into a good talk track, because I think we all seek, in a way, others' validation, but like you're saying, like it's just that it's an opinion. And
yeah.
I think nowadays everybody is so caught up, and I'm guilty of it in my early 20s, like so caught up on the grind of things and constantly like pushing and hammering away. But in all reality, like I've gotten to a place where I'm not content, but it's like you got to find that balance for you. And I'm not going to say everybody needs to go and find this balance, because there's some that wouldn't agree with me, but all I can say is that it's different for everybody. You got a lot going on with your family and things like that, so I'm sure it's important.
Yeah, to me coming into, especially, I just came back into the industry, like I was saying, after I became a real estate assistant. Then 2011, I got my stuff. I got my green card at that point, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, try this out. These people see a lot of potential in me. I'm making friends. I love what I'm doing, and I'm familiar with things that I feel like I should pursue this route. And I remember taking my exams with a few other realtors that I'm friends with here in the industry, and it was a group of us, and I failed. I don't know if it was the language barrier or that I was going through divorce at the time.
Oh shoot.
I don't know, but I just could not pass the exam. I'm pretty sure I took it like 8 times. I rescheduled it 8 times. And didn't pass it. And so I kind of, once I was placed on deportation proceedings, well, that all of that was put on hold. So when I came back 2 years ago, thankfully in the system my stuff was still available, so I just scheduled it, I went and took it, and then I passed it. And it was like, that's so crazy to me. Like, I mean, things work out in a funny way, but they do. They always do.
It just wasn't your time.
It wasn't my time. And that's basically what I've learned with, like you said, the competition is, you know, I respect everyone's time coming into the industry. I know, again, what I count on. I know I don't have support, I don't have family, so I know I have 2 children. I know that I'm a single parent. I know that I'm the head of household, and I still gotta see for this, and I still gotta do for that. Why would it be smart of me to just grind myself so hard to the ground and neglect my household, my kids, and this and that, just to accomplish some numbers? You know, why? Because that's what the competition is doing. Okay, well, you don't know the competition story. I know my story, and I know what tools I have, and I know what I can do at the time. It's not gonna be forever, you know. I understand that. Just because I'm not, you know, killing it right now per se, doesn't mean that I'm not going to in 2 years or in 3 or 5 or in 10, you know. I just know that at that time, that's what I can go to bed and peacefully sleep, knowing that those are the decisions I'm okay with, you know, applying and prioritizing this and balancing this, instead of just, you know, I keep saying this, I tell everybody, look, when my kids are old enough and I've gone to college, I'm probably gonna just grind. I'm probably gonna be so alone, and I'm just going to be like, okay, well, all I have to do is just work, so let's work.
Yeah, and I have seen that you're very family oriented, and that's that's really great. And this is one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to have you on, because you do have a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I have wanted to interview other women that are just an expert in their own field.
Handling everything.
But not only that, you're a true lady boss, if you will. Like you're doing things for sure.
Thank you.
And I've seen that, and you don't need my validation for that, but you have been. Like yesterday, I believe you just closed on some land, right?
Yeah, it was a
or excuse me, not
home.
land.
Yes,
yeah.
it was a
Fixer
home.
uppers, what it was.
Yeah, and funny thing is, I mentioned it before we started the interview, is that up until last month, sorry, I had another job. I had a job that I was doing during the day, and then when I was done there, then I paid attention to my real estate. And so that was really just sucking me out of energy and time, consuming a lot of my time. And so although it was giving me a little bit of security, it was kind of just throwing everything off in my household because of the schedule, because of my availability, because of my responsibilities. I couldn't be at all places at once. And so I really just had to come to terms with, really looking at the scenario and deciding, okay, do I want to have that security for this amount of period of time, and then how much is that gonna bring you at the end of the year compared to the price that you can put on creating your own schedule, still helping more people, and still spending more time around your kids. And so it was an easy decision where I was like, I am a little scared because you never know what can happen, but I know that I can do it. Why? Because I've already, I've already passed a lot of things that I was able to get past. So I know this one I can handle. And before, I think that I was closing, if any, maybe was like one a month. And the month that I quit, which is last month, the shorter month, I was able to get 4 into escrow.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just because I didn't have to get up, get ready, get my kids ready, get them to daycare, get them to my sister. My sisters are the ones that basically help me with it all, but they themselves, they have work, and they also are full-time students with a college.
Oh wow.
So it's been rough juggling that. So that kind of helped too, because my daughter was like, well, I have to do school from home, and it's just
That's
a lot
headache,
going
yeah.
on. And I remember just deciding, okay, well, I can do this. We're gonna be fine. And I'm glad I did it, because I was able to wake up and get my kids ready for school, make them a nice breakfast, and then dive into work and save hours. Okay, from this time to this time, I'm gonna do nothing but phone calls, and I'm gonna do this and do this, and then at this time I'm gonna spend time, or I'm gonna do something to give him that attention, and then whatever else the day called for. And I feel like I've made a much better schedule, and I'm handling things, we're balancing things, and even my relationship with my kids has gotten stronger too. There's more connection, and not
That's
just
awesome.
them watching me work and rushing from one place to another.
Yeah.
Because as a parent, I think that we're very conscious of that. It's the amount of time that you're giving your kids. Are you giving them that time? Are you listening to their needs? Are you missing on anything? At least for me, those are the questions. I constantly will go hit the pillow, and I'm like, okay, you know, what can I do better there on that level. On the business side, the same thing. Every time I hit the pillow, I'm just like, well, maybe tomorrow I should do this differently. Maybe I should start by doing this, or maybe I should, you know, try something different or better something by, you know, just reading it. There's times one of the things that now I'm spending more time doing is reading through the entire contracts, like all the
all the fine print.
I always tell my client, go ahead and sign your soul away. Well, now I want to be aware of the fine print. It's very long. So I think that overall I like just giving myself hope. I like to think that there's better days always coming, and so when you go through life with that mentality and open to learning, because truly everything is a learning experience. Anything you can learn from anyone, you can learn from anything, and as long as you keep that in mind and believe in yourself and not care what others are doing, what the level of other people are, because I myself, I'm guilty of that. You know, I'm getting to my 30s and I'm like, man, you know, I'm not married. I have, you know, my family's kind of broken, and you know, I don't have a house this big by now, and I should already be. There's all these little things that you can see other people and easily get caught up into it, but. At the end of the day, again, you know your story, know where you're coming from, know what you have had to deal with, and acknowledge that, and give yourself props. Give yourself props, because just by handling and overcoming the obstacles, you've already succeeded. So, I mean, people are going to tell you what their version of success is. Just, you know, set your own, because that's what's important.
I love that you said that, and I was going to post something today on Facebook, but I didn't, because I was trying to like articulate it, but I was caught in like thinking of the interview, and I'm just like, no. But part of what I wanted to say was like everybody's version of success is different. And sometimes we're like, you know, people have that scarcity mindset where they're operating like, oh, they're doing this, so I gotta do it, because now they're going to take away all of my clients. Or you can think of it in business, or you can think of it as you know, social media or a podcast, for example, really anything. But if you're in that frame of mind, then it kind of robs you in a way. But where I was going was like, there's so many different versions of success to each individual, that there's an abundance of possibilities for everyone. Like there's more than enough success to go around.
Right.
Because success is defined, you know, for yourself as something different as it is to me, you know, and some people value happiness more than they do monetary things or material, you know?
Yeah.
No,
everybody has a different mindset too, and so I mean, like for me, being able to have time to make dinner and sit down is success. If I have one of those nights, I'm successful. That's what it really just comes down to what is important to an individual, and I think that, you know, getting to know yourself and getting to know what is it that you like, what is it that you want in life, what is it that, you know, sparks that something in you, really does something and position you, or at least leading you to the path that, you know, you may not succeed at first, but will learn a lot through the journey. So I think that for me, in making the videos with the community, I've learned a lot, and those were things that I didn't even think of doing. It was just like, it's just that we have a camera, we have a gimbal, let's do it. And it wasn't like the best thing, but I was like, you know, if I can practice in, I'm sure that they're going to get better. If I continue to keep reaching out to people, maybe, you know, then I can come across something special. I can come across or discover something, or meet people that, you know, will bring something or will be of some type of impact. And I don't want to lose on those opportunities. I don't want to kind of shut myself away or shut those doors.
Yeah.
And diving into them. You know, I mean, you've seen the latest ones. They're still work in progress, but at the end of the day, it's my creation, it's my it's something that I like to put together, and I think that I'm gonna continue doing them just because it brings me that fulfillment of I can do that. I can't do that. I don't care if it's not bringing me money. I don't care if it's not.
No, I totally agree with you. If
it's not doing anything monetarily or financially better for me, or if it's bringing me connections. Like, it's all about the experiences for me. So if I can continue to do that, why not? Because, I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
I'll second that. In a way, does it fuel you?
Yes, absolutely. There's something about pushing the limits and getting past. Like, I'm not going to lie, I get shy.
You get shy.
I get shy. I get shy. I get shy in front of the camera. I mean, you remember the first time I shot with you? How long were we out there getting us sunburned?
Yeah,
like an hour.
Yeah. I got burned too. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good.
So
it was a hot summer day that day.
It was. So, you know, I just didn't really care for the little things. I just was focused on the bigger picture. If I can do this, what's the next thing I'm gonna be able to do? Basically. So anytime was like just pushing a little bit, and just trying to see. I mean, you've seen your first podcast and you study them, and you're like, okay, maybe next time I should move the light this way. Maybe that's not my angle. Maybe, like, you know.
Yeah, I look back. Yeah.
Yeah, you get better. You get better, and so why discard the opportunity to learn when it's right in front of you?
Exactly.
And so I just, now with the videos, you're doing an amazing job with this podcast. I could never do a podcast because half of what I say, people are probably not even gonna understand.
No, not even. You were telling me that you appreciate how I'm articulate. I think that, I mean, you're doing a good job of just explaining your thoughts.
Thank you.
And I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell that English is your second language like now. You know, you've come a long way from what you're saying. But that's, you know, you have an interesting story, you know, and I think that anybody can kind of take away some lessons because, and I wanted to touch on, I didn't want it to be like a downer in a way, but like, there were two things. The first thing was, I wanted to second, you were saying that people kind of look at you weird because you're doing videos in real estate and they're like, why are you doing that when you can produce more? It's almost like the same thing with what I'm doing with my podcast. Like, there's a lot of, you know, solar advisors, solar brokers in the field, you know, that I'm connected with, like 20,000 over the United States. They're all doing something different. Some of them are in real estate, some of them are loan officers, some of them like also have their jobs, but I don't know anybody that's kind of like doing what I'm doing, and they're just like, why are you wasting time on that? And I'm just like, this is something that I'm passionate about. And when I was working for a job over I've been working, I told you, since I was like in 8th grade. I've had a job all the time. So committing and giving my time to a job, to a company, it's all I've known.
Yeah.
You know, you go to college and that's kind of what they teach you. But I've always like felt that I wanted to do my own thing. But now that I'm doing my own thing, I get to kind of take away some time and delegate that to what I want to do as a person, not just what's going to put like not only food, but money in my pocket. You know what I mean? So this, I just feel like it drives me. I love understanding people's story. I like connecting with people, but beyond the surface level of things too, because I'm a very deep person just by myself. And like, if you've, you know, watched, I'm sure you have here and there, but like even on Instagram, stuff like that, like things that I post, it's not for everybody. I know that. Like, a lot of it can irritate some people just by what I say, or but there's more levels to everybody, but sometimes we choose not to show those levels because it can be awkward too sometimes. You know. Yeah,
you do have to keep that level of professionalism with people when you are I guess expressing yourself. And it's important to, at least for me, I think it's important to be considerate of others, but at the same time, it's like all you can do is give understanding, because people only understand from the level of understanding they have. You know, so there are people that you'll tell them, you know, you can make money by doing so and so and so, and they're gonna be like, what? I can make more money? They're gonna be skeptical. They're going to limit their beliefs and stick to what they know, what the only thing they know. So people like that, you can't really blame. You know, you can't really get out of their box until they're ready to. And for me, I feel like I am the same. Like, I don't completely express 100% what I really mean or say, and it's mostly out of professionalism and just understanding that everybody has a different mindset, that everybody sees, has a different perception, that everybody sees the world through different lenses, and just respecting and understanding that allows me to really connect with a lot of people. You know, I have friends that are younger than me, I have friends that are older than me, I have friends that, you know, regardless of what it is I feel like I've always been able to connect, just because I understand that just like I have a story, other people have a stories, and who am I to say that's not good enough, or who am I to say, okay, you know, you're doing it wrong, because it's not about doing wrong or right, it's just about doing and figuring it out.
I'm glad you said that. I'm really glad you said that.
So I feel like in any industry, any judgmental comments you get come from people that maybe, if you understand psychology deep enough, you see that that's just them speaking through themselves. Like, that is the potential that I wish, you know, or the freedom that I wish I had, or this is, you know, the way that I feel, so you should go about things like that. And it's like, okay, I see where you're coming from, I understand it, but this is my path.
And that's not me.
It's the power, again, just to know yourself and know, like, you can hear all of this, because you can be very easily influenced. But knowing where you stand and knowing your story and knowing where you're heading will allow you to just be like, all of that is cool, but at the end of the day, this is my book, guys. Enjoy reading yours.
Seriously.
You know? So, I mean, it's not easy. Juggling life, responsibilities, kids, everything as a female, it's hard. I'm not going to lie, it's probably hard for guys too, but I think that I am where I am because the experiences that I've gone through. They've forced me to step up to where I'm at now. And one thing that I've learned throughout all of my journey is that if you are happy and content with what is given to you, then by all means, you know, live your life that way. But if you deep down inside of you know that you deserve more, that you want more than what you have in hand, then, you know, take that path, take that leap of faith, take that risk, make it happen, because literally you are the own designer of your life and the only creator that will make things come true for yourself. So anything that you can feed yourself to be able to accomplish that goal, you know, education, self-education, you know, emotional intelligence, ability to, you know, just strategize and see, okay, if I do these moves, you know, where will this place me in a future? Anything that you can do to feed that goal and believe in yourself ultimately will get you there in no time, and just hard, consistent work. I mean, we said this earlier. Success doesn't happen overnight, and I don't claim success. Right now, I'm successful in a lot of areas of my life, so I don't really pin it to one specific thing. I don't care to have expensive cars. I don't care to have a mansion. I don't care. To me, success is to be able to take care of those who are under my care, and if I can accomplish that and be good, doesn't mean I don't want more, but that means that at the time and the place, it's all I need. So
that's awesome.
I mean, you just making peace with the things that you are willing to accept is different from accepting what is given to you or what life throws at you. So know the difference and stand up. If you don't like it where you at, get up. And
you're such a natural at explaining all of this. Like, I mean, I'm just like, I'm dumbfounded right now.
I think of being aware of all of that for a year now, where I just didn't really voice a lot of it, but
I don't think I've ever heard you, voice this.
I don't,
like,
and
anything.
To be honest, and in full disclosure, I don't speak like that with everybody. I'm not very deep with people because I like to be charming. I like to just, hey, what's up? And it can come off a little bit superficial, but because, like you said, because I know it's not for everybody. If the door isn't there for me, I won't make it. I won't force it. There's something that I've learned about forcing things in life is that they never work out. Never. So let things be, let them flow naturally. If it's meant to be, it will happen, and if it's not, it's because there are other things that will come your way. And I think that for me, I do open that door for people, but I don't like to force them. I don't like to give it personal. I'm not that person that is like, oh, so how's your relationship? How's life going? No, I will talk to you and I'll let you hear my experiences, and if you feel comfortable sharing yours with me, then I will open up. But if not, then I don't like to just tell my business to everybody.
Yeah. I like that you can differentiate that, though, and I think that that's very important, having that ability to connect on a deep level or not in a way. For me, it's kind of like I've been in the sales industry for a very long time, so I feel like I always try to connect with people because that's what drives me, just being able to connect with people, and it's a challenge. And if I can't, I'm just like, man, like, what didn't I do to make them feel comfortable? Because at the end of the day, I like to make everybody feel comfortable, and I'm sure you do too. But yeah, I think we go about it a lot of different ways. There's nothing wrong with that. One thing I wanted to bring up, and I didn't want it to be a downer, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but you had brought up a really good point. And I think for people listening, whatever place that they're in, I mean, it could be relationship, whatever, but like, talk about, if you're fine with it, talk about like what it was like going through and coming down to the decision to like get a divorce. Like, because I know you said getting into and being pregnant early on, you're like, I got to have a family. That from where you came from. So like, not only to do that once but twice is very powerful and not a bad thing by any means. I don't view it as bad, but like, I just feel like you have a platform to speak on that as a woman.
Yeah, funny thing is, none of those divorces were my decision. So I feel like I went through the marriages and the divorces the best way that I could. Once the divorce was filed, which again I did not initiate it, was the biggest heartbreaks of my life.
Well, now I'm sorry to bring that up.
So no, I mean, again, we go through things and we get over them. But I think that during that time, it was very hard. It was very hard because, one, I was dealing with abandonment issues already. Not having parents, not not knowing, you know, who to go to when my world was collapsing, and just in general, because of how I grew up, you know, my father used to tell me, you know, I don't know why you're going to school. If you're gonna get married, you're gonna have a kid, and that's gonna be your job. Yeah. And so I would say absolutely not. Every time, you know, that's why I had to emancipate myself. I would go up against him and say, no, that is not what I'm gonna do. And so hearing that and then getting to that point, I remember going to their house when the divorce happened and looking for a place to stay meanwhile, and then having a conversation where they said, you know, you made that decision, now, you know, that doesn't look good on you, because who's gonna want a woman with a child? And so I remember...
Who told you that?
My father. And so I remember thinking, like, I'm not going back. Things, I don't want to repeat the same story I've watched my entire life. I don't know that it was exactly the same, but
you just had enough.
I knew there were things that I wasn't willing to tolerate. And so, to not get into specifics. And so I just basically went my own way. I said, okay, that's fine. I started working as an assistant at Keller Williams. When they opened the office here, I started working as from 8:30 to 12:30. I work as an assistant there. From 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. I work as a loan officer assistant, and then from like 7:30 to 11:30 or 12 p.m. I work at the Seton pistachio farm or plant in Terabella. And with those 3 jobs, I was able to get enough money to get an apartment and then get a vehicle. And when I did that, I was like, I don't need nonsense. I can do this by myself. Like, I don't need that nonsense. I will not, you know, stay in a place where I'm not treated well, or where I'm not given a place when I know I can bring this to the table. Absolutely not. So I just kind of worked and decided, this is the worst heartbreak of my life, but I think that at some point you realize that if you love yourself enough, you're going to let things be the way they need to be. And I mean, like, if somebody wants to live your life, who are you to tell them they can't? Because they obviously want to live your life for Y, X reason, right?
Yeah.
So who are you to tell them that they can't go and seek happiness, right?
To like hold on to it or force it.
Everybody is deserving of being in a place where they feel safe. Everybody's deserving of being in a relationship where they feel fulfillment, where they feel love, where they get support, you know, and all these other things. And if it's not working out with somebody, you know, who are you to tell them that they need to see different? No, everybody has different perceptions. Everybody sees things different. And if their experience is different from yours, who are you to change that? You know?
Yeah.
That's completely, you know, removing an individual. And so I think that if anything I've learned from my heartbreaks is that, you know, people will come and go in your life all the time. And if you truly care for people, you're gonna let them go. If they decide that they want to go because they want to find happiness somewhere else, or because they are not happy where they are right now, let them go. If people want to come into your life and give you something, receive it. It's just the law of life. You know, you can't hold on to anything and anyone that isn't bringing anything good to your life. I know we're in a society and an era where relationships are,
Yeah.
a hit and miss. It is like, oh, we are together, we're not together. Like, we assumed it was, this is in a contract. It's a hit and miss. But, surrounding myself with people that I knew were bringing value into my life was the biggest thing that changed my life. And that was because although it didn't fit within my standards or what I saw for myself, I had to learn the difference between the people that are, like you say, eye candy or are contributing to your life in a certain way, and the ones that are truly bringing value into your life. And when I looked at my relationships, I was like, if you sit there and analyze, which is most likely after you go through a heartbreak, is like you start picking and learning about a lot of things that you're like, oh, how come I didn't see that before? How come I didn't put that before, those two together before? How come I missed that red flag? There's always these little things, but at the end of the day, when that happened, I just knew that, I was in a way, I feel like, look, you're a queen. Again, this is me talking in the mirror again. You're a queen. If somebody doesn't want to be here, you just gotta give them your blessing and let it go. So it was a very dark time of my life, I'm not going to lie, because heartbreaks are never easy and they're not something that you just get over overnight.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
But I definitely had in mind that if I did the right thing, or what felt to me the right thing, which was just let it go, then I would be okay with myself accepting that it was gone. It was like convincing myself that although, I loved a person, or I felt some type of way, or I had this dream of how our life was going to go. It's very hard to take that down.
Heck
it's
yeah,
very hard to undo all of that and change your life like 360 degree. Is very hard, but you got yourself, and people are always going to come and go. Blood, friends, family, colleagues, all around you, constantly a change of people. I'm not from around here, so I don't have like a little best friend that I went to like kindergarten, since kindergarten until now. Like, I don't have that. However, I still in touch with people that I went to school in Mexico. I'm still in touch with people that I was close to, and I'll tell you that if there's anything that I always hear them talk to me about and admire, is how you have that strength to just say stand up and get up from a place that you don't want to be in. Like, that has to be very hard. And I'm like, yeah, but think about it. If you don't, then you yourself turn miserable. Therefore, you make it miserable for those around. And that just starts a cycle. It starts a cycle. It starts a cycle, because if you're not good, you can't be good to others. If you're not happy, you start lashing out to people. If you're not at peace, then what happens? Bad things. Is if you're not can control yourself, you see it all around. People portray their own emotions and feelings onto other people. They project it. So
it's true.
It's like, if you're aware of this and have the knowledge that this is what will happen, why put yourself through that when, like, they say there's billions of people out there, billions of people out there. So you know, you're better off just finding yourself and refocusing on what you can do, because at the end of the day, that's all you can do. It's just focus on you and control what you can control within yourself, and everybody else is just gonna either come and go. And again, that's something else about life that you have to make peace with, is that nothing is forever. There's one thing that you have guaranteed in this life, and it's taxes and freaking death. You can't avoid those.
Taxes, yes.
So you know, you just have to make peace. You just have to make peace with the things that you cannot control. And in my case, as a woman, you know, as much as I wanted to have my man right there, and I was like, you know, we can make it work, at the end of the day was like, I am deserving of someone who wants and sees a life with me. And if that person that is here right now at the time doesn't see that, then it's not for me. And I just have to let it go. And I just have to pick myself up and then keep going on the path, keep going on the path. Now you rewire everything and you're like, okay, now you, in my case, the hardest part for me was my family being broken. That was the hardest part for me, is just not having the control or the ability to see my kids 24/7. It was the shared custody and juggling things here and there, and then when you're not getting along with the other parents, even harder. And so there were so many factors that make it even harder. But at the end of the day, you know, my oldest one now is 10. Things have worked out just fine. I actually have a great relationship with my first ex-husband, and you know, we're the best co-parents you can ever see. We're great with each other, but he knows, you know, he knows that when coming to me or when talking to me, I am this person that is kind of like that. Is like, I'm not here to argue. We're just going to talk, and if it's not meant, then it's not meant. But at the end of the day, we know and are aware of our mistakes and where we stand, and we've been able to put all of that aside for our kid. And now it's just like healing. I wish him well, he wishes me well, and it's just healing from there. So no matter how deep you find yourself or hopeless you find yourself because love is not knocking at your door, or because love left, you know, things will always work out. You know, you see it everywhere. People, I mean, even myself, I have spent a lot of time alone, and I tell you, there's times where I'm like, oh my gosh, if that person came in a relationship, what the heck? What am I doing? Right. And it's like, I think that I know is because I know what I want, and I know what I'm not willing to settle for. So I don't entertain anything less than that. And when it comes to bringing myself up, truly, you know, it just came down to thinking of myself and viewing myself through the eyes I wanted somebody else to view me as. It was like, okay, well, if that person doesn't want to be with me because this, then that's okay, but I know I have these good qualities, so why don't I work on this? And because that's what I want others to see. And literally, that is what I started to attract. It was people exactly how I said I wanted to view myself. And I found out because that's what they viewed in myself. And it was like, that's crazy. That's so crazy, because I believe that I had those qualities, and now people are starting to like seeing it, and it's like, yeah, I do. I am worthy. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of people wanting to stay by my side, and I am worthy of receiving many blessings, limitless blessings.
Exactly.
So, you know, it was fun and all, crying a minute or two, but it's like everything else, you know, it's just phases that you go through. They're unavoidable. Unfortunately, I'm, you know, probably gonna buy a gun by the time my kids have to go through all of that.
Right.
I'm just kidding, but no,
She's
seriously.
not. Yeah, I was like, she's not. She's not.
You know, it's one of those things. Like I said, as long as you make peace with the things that you're willing to accept, life becomes a lot easier. That is people coming in and of your life, you know. I do sit there and I think a lot about how I wish my life would have gone instead of all this crazy long story of unfortunate events. But I can't sit here and complain about the huge lessons I've learned about where that has placed me today, because I mean, there are days where I doubt myself, and there are days where I like sit there and I'm like, well, I mean, I came here, I learned a brand new language, I got my real estate license, although I failed like 8 times the test. And I bring everything to the table that is needed and more. And I still have time to feed my creativeness and make these videos. And I'm still, you know, in my own way, killing it to what my version of success is. So, I mean, like, the world's mine, literally.
Yeah.
And when you really think about that, the world is yours. When you really think about the things that you yourself clap yourself to, because if you waiting on validation, you're always gonna keep waiting. People will never
Seriously.
give you validation. People will never give you validation, at least not the one that you need. And so, you know, I say go for things, especially the ones that scare you the most, the one that make you feel the most uncomfortable, the ones that are just a twist in your stomach that you just want to puke, that you're just like, okay, I don't know if I need 5 shots of tequila, go to sleep, or, you know, bang my head against something. But it's always something good to look at, is what you have, your path, how far you've come, what you've accomplished. And even if it's smaller wins than what the other people are bringing, it's still better. It's still better than anything. It's very funny that you tell me this, because just the other day, and you can see it here, I wrote something.
Mike, what'd you write?
And I wrote on 2/28, and just to close out the interview, tell me what that says.
People let society dictate what success is for them too much. Like, who cares if someone else thinks your wins aren't wins because they've won more? That's their life. You dictate what your wins are because only you know your story. Stop comparing yourself to others and celebrate your wins. Clap for yourself, and don't let anyone tell you your hard work isn't good enough because it isn't a match to theirs. Your time is coming. Let them have theirs. That's so true.
And that was just basically a note from me to myself, as I was getting wrapped up in, you know, thinking about somebody else's success and what they're showing. And it was like, check yourself, Monica, because again, this is not the rules of the game that you play by. So why are you even getting caught up in it? But everything's possible. Everything's possible, as long as you have the determination, the mindset to get it done, and the discipline. Truly, discipline it's all. For me, I've never been motivated. I'm not 100 motivated all the time. I mean, for God's sake, I have a 4-year-old. I wake up and I'm like, what mess am I gonna clean today?
Right.
So there is so much that goes on in a daily life as a mom, that I think that if anything I've learned in that aspect, handling a household and handling kids and handling a business, is that don't stretch yourself too much to please everyone, you know, because at the end of the day, the only ones that you need to worry about, the little ones watching you, are the one is yourself. If you're not good, I've always said this, if you're not good, how can you take care of others? And so after all my heartbreaks, after everything, one thing I've kept my focus on is keeping my mental health good, because I know others depend on me. And I know that if I'm good and I learn how to maneuver through things or go through things, then I can show the way to those below me, or that are coming after me. And so I've always been okay with being the pioneer, being the one that is, I'll go first, guys. Yeah, I'll be like, I'll be the first. Wow. So, always thinking, just not selfishly what's best for me, but just what is going to keep me good, so I can reach my full potential, and so that I can still cover all of these other things going on around me, because it's a lot. Balancing, it's a lot, but as long as you keep in mind what your priorities are, and constantly remind yourself again where you're coming from, where you've tackled, the battles that you've won, and again, what you're capable of, that is literally what fires me up, and I hope it can fire everybody up if you truly think about it.
Seriously, I wanted to continue to let you speak, and I know we're running short on time and you got to get going, but for those that have not heard Monica, get this deep about the things in her life and just her journey this far, I mean, it's very inspiring, to say the least. I know I use that word a lot, but truly, I mean, I wouldn't have known that you would have went through all of these different things, and I can see why it continues to fuel you. And I can, just looking back and knowing you and following you on social media thus far, it's like, now I know where that fire and that drive comes from. Right. I see it online, but we don't really know too much about people online and things. But I just wanted to let you talk. I know I didn't interrupt you, but so a lot of what you said, I think that people can relate in some way, shape, or form, and take away and learn from what you said. But in closing, I kind of want to just open it up really quick. I know we didn't touch too much on the real estate aspect for the people out there, though, because you're a really great real estate agent.
I've developed a very intense passion from helping families accomplish such a big goal. Buying real estate is one of the biggest purchases that you'll ever make in your life, and so I just love going through the entire process and walking families down into their home. I mean, it is one of the most satisfying rewards that I can have, besides hear my kids tell me, "I love you, Mom." So I think that for anyone in their Central Valley, that is looking to buy, sell real estate, and needs any help with information, or just any advice or anything, you can always reach out to me. My information is on my page, or I'm sure he'll tag me in this.
I will link all her information in the video.
And if you ever just interested in connecting, learning more about myself, about me, or my business, or even just on a friendship level, I'm always open to meeting new people. I love to learn from new people. I just had some Australian clients, and I love listening to their accent. I love just learning more about the culture. I've lived in 3 different countries, and I've loved picking up on a little bit of the language everywhere, and just learning about people and what they're about. So I'm always open to networking. So if anyone wants to hang out with me, or just learn about my business, or even get into the business, definitely give me a call. She's the homegirl. Right here.
Well, Monica, honestly, thank you for your time. I know that you got to get going. In conclusion, just like I always say, guys, doubt kills, embrace now, and live your legacy. Thank you again, Monica.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan. Appreciate it.